Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome to Brilliance Business TV, conversations with leading experts in business. I am your host, Mark Stephen Pooler, and I am really looking forward to a great conversation today. We're streaming live on MSP News Global. Also, we're on Facebook, Periscope, LinkedIn, YouTube, post-production. Also, we're on Instagram TV. Also, we're on the E360 TV network, which can be viewed live on Apple TV, Fire TV, Android TV, lots and lots more. There's so many places that we're streaming live, and Roku as well. So let's get started with the show. I am joined with one of my wonderful friends, Koshy. Annie is a branding strategist, model, actress. She's involved in an incredible film, what we will talk about shortly as well. Annie, welcome to the Brilliance Business Show.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am really looking forward to a conversation with you today, Annie. Before I get started, I just want to make an official shout out to our official show sponsors, which are Craig Shelley, Beverly Hills Luxury Watches and Fine Jewellery at craigshelley.com. So let's get started with the show. Now, I'd like you to just start with Annie. Just share with our viewers, our listeners, just a little bit about what you do, who you are.
Wow. Well, that's a loaded question there, Mark. What do I do? A number of things. And who I am is constantly evolving. I think I began as an educator, and that was my earlier career hat that I wore for several decades. And then from that, I moved into database management, and I found that was something that really I enjoyed doing. And it was a good job that I was able to put food on the table. And I had a job, I could say, but it wasn't really my passion. And I came into my passion much, much later. And it was really the third hat that I wore, in which I'd moved into a more full-time media role, in which I found my true passion and my true calling. And that's where I find myself now. And it's really what I, enjoy doing, because it's not really work any longer. It's that I plork during my day. And plork is this cool urban term of being able to play and work at the same time. And that's what I find myself doing.
So we know a little bit more about what you do, so I really want to go into detail with this later in the show. I really want to hear about the obstacles, the challenges that you have faced, and your past, what has led you to where you are today, Annie, because I know you haven't always been this successful businesswoman. I know that you have had obstacles along the journey as well.
Yeah, I think I was always a creative child, and that was something that I found myself on stage at a very young age. I found myself performing or singing. I found myself emceeing events or closing ceremonies and doing the closing sort of speech, that sort of thing, right from a very, very young age. And so I was always recognized as doing that. But I come from a very academic family, and the academics were put in forefront rather than the arts. The arts was looked upon as being a hobby. But what do you do when a child is naturally talented in certain areas that are traditionally not job related? When I was in school, in high school, there were 5 maybe main jobs that people could do as their career, and that was it. You were expected to do that. And I also come from a very orthodox background, in which towing what the expectations of my parents, my family, the culture, that was what was expected. And so that's what I did. And I went through life like that. I went through life feeling that I had to meet everyone else's approval. And it led to a lot of misalignment with what I really what I was saying to myself internally, what I really wanted to do, what my heart was longing to do, versus I needed to be the good girl. I needed to be the one that was adhering to, you know, what my parents wanted. And then it went on to what my family, you know, my in-laws wanted. And it continued like that. But ultimately what happens is when you continue to live life on someone else's terms, you're not living life at all. You're living life in a halfway way, you know. And it didn't strike me till I was well into my 40s that I had lived more life than I had left living, and that if I continued in the path that I was going to go, I was going to continue in a way that was making me more and more unhappy. And it was a scary moment, really, Mark. It's when you decide and you find for yourself at these crossroads as to, do you want to rock the boat? Do you want to stay in the boat, but, you know, you're not really happy being there because you're a bit seasick, but you don't want to get out of the boat either because you're so used to the way it's been going. And that's what I found myself with, is that if you get out of the boat, you're going to be in waters that maybe you don't know how deep it is or how far you have to swim. But at the same time, you're in charge of, you're out, you're doing it, you're navigating it on your own. And that's what I chose to do. I stepped into a situation in which I was very unfamiliar with. It's unheard of in my community, really, to divorce. And the very fact that I decided to leave a long-term relationship and to pursue things that I was more inclined to do was going against the tide, going against the flow, and going against what I was brought up to do. And so it was really, really a scary moment in my life when I had to do that. But I'm glad I did, because had I not done that, and had I not stepped into my power and really crashed, burned, and risen again from the ashes, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have been able to complete a book. I wouldn't have done both of the films in which I've been recognized, both as on-screen talent as well as for the story, especially in my biopic. And these are things that I had to get beyond the fear, and that's so funny to say that word, but to get to beyond the fear to actually do what was truly my vision and my passion.
I think what really stood out to me there, Annie, is wanting your family's approval or feeling you need their approval to follow your dreams. I know a lot of people in entrepreneurship who are following their passions and their dreams. They do face this kind of resistance in the beginning when they're going a different direction to what the norm is and not doing what the family may want you to do. And I know in the Indian culture as well, they are known for being a little bit stricter as well. What advice would you give to those people out there in entrepreneurship who may be facing this kind of resistance, being told to stick to what they're good at? I know I have that many times. Stick to hairdressing, what you are good at. What advice do you have? I would say follow your dreams and always listen to your own gut instinct as well.
It is difficult, Mark, because when you are a young person and you're dependent on your, parents, or you're dependent on your family to put you through school or to put the roof over your head, or they provide for you in some way, you feel almost obliged, and they feel sort of that you owe it to them that you follow what it is. But often we realize, whether it is our parents, whether it is our significant other, whether it is our children, each of us are on this planet. We have our own individual journeys to actually walk on. We have our own paths that we have to be on, and that's something very important. Even when you are in a significant other relationship, it doesn't mean that you have ownership over that other person. It doesn't mean that what you want to have happen has to happen. And as parents, we have to remember that we cannot be living our lives through our children, that they are here as gifts to us. All our role really is to raise them up and teach them how to be human, teach them how to be young people, so that they're able to go on and conquer the world the way they need to conquer it. It is not our role or our responsibility to tell them that this is how that they should do it or they need to do it. It's rather, this is a suggestion. This is something that I've experienced and perhaps it will help you. And it's to keep those doors open so that they're able to, sometimes make those falls, because they learn sometimes more through their failures than they do through their successes.
I agree totally. Let them go out and spread their wings and find their own way. I know a lot of families out there probably won't, but sometimes you just have to find the courage and do what you want to do anyway, even though you know that your family don't really get what you're doing or approve of what you're doing. Now, my next question, because we have so many areas to cover, Annie. Firstly, I did drama when I was younger, so I did bits of television extras, theatre as well. I did when I was younger. And my dream was, when I was younger, I wanted to be an actor, but a little bit what we're talking about now, my parents said it was expensive to go to drama school. So when I left school, I decided to go into hairdressing and not follow what I wanted to do in the beginning. I wanted to do like what you're doing, is acting. So my question as a fan has got to be, what got you into acting and what steps did you take? Because it's not an easy industry to get into.
No, I actually didn't have any idea that I was going to get into acting. I did like modeling, and I have done ramp. I've done even internationally. I had, I had posters, billboards on the side of the road. My voice has always been used for voiceovers, jingles, that sort of thing. It's always been recognized as being distinctive. But I never expected myself to get into acting because I hate memorizing. I hate long passages where I have to memorize someone else's words and they're not really my words and my way of saying it. And so I found that a challenge. I continue to have to work at that. But I realized that when I was teaching English and I had to teach drama, that I truly enjoyed playing the parts. I enjoyed getting kids to even think about it. And I found it a release. I found that being able to act was able to show emotion that sometimes I was suppressing or holding back from because it was, just not done, that you show that type of emotion. You don't show anger. You don't show hurt. God forbid that you show that something has gone wrong. And when you are acting, you can do all of that because you're playing a character. So I had been cast in several films, and this is one of the challenges that I think directors face, is they go in, when you're producing or directing something with this dream of wanting to put something out, but having that dream is not the only thing. The action comes in having the script and then getting the actors but then after that comes the cost of post-production work, the editing, the putting it together and getting a finished product. And I've been on several sets in which I have actually shot for and memorized lines and delivered lines, and everything was done from the acting side of the production. But then in post-edit, something's not gone right, and the actual film or short film, whatever it was, has not actually come into a final product. And several products like that happened, several instances like that happened. And I thought, gosh, I'm never going to get on screen. When is this going to happen? And then I got cast for a South Asian mother role in a short film called A Bloody Mess. And I had never met the director or the producer. I had never, ever gone in for an acting role. And I went in and I auditioned. And as soon as I finished the audition, they had us do it one more time. I had to do it with a couple of other people that were going to potentially be my family in the film. And as soon as we did it the second time, it was silent. And then they all went, "You're all hired, all of us." And it was just the synergy of the group that they liked and the way we interacted with each other. And the funniest thing was that my daughter on screen is Spanish. I'm not Spanish. I'm South Asian. So how are we going to make this Spanish girl be my daughter? And so we had to make her a little bit more looking like she was Indian, and I had to get my hair. I have naturally sort of wavy hair, but I had to have it more, curly. And, we try to look like mother and daughter a bit more. And I think we pulled it off. That film has gone on. It's just an 11.5-minute short. And it went on to win about 28, 30 nominations. That led to my dream when I left of saying to myself, one of the things on my bucket list was, I'm going to be on big screen. My name is going to be known around the world, and my story is going to be something that's going to help and change the lives of other women. And that thing that I said to myself, which was in a moment of real deep grief and pain, came into happening. And in October, my film Fear was released, Mark, Face Everything and Rise. And in the couple of months that it's been released, it's just won its 24th award. That itself is huge. To go from someone who was non-existent in the acting world in 2 years to have 2 films that have been award-winning is a huge feat.
Yes, and you're already ahead of me here, because I really want to go in detail about Fear, Face Everything and Rise in a lot more detail. I just want to go backwards a little bit, if you don't mind, and can we just talk a bit about the story of your first film? What's that one all about, Annie?
Yeah, A Bloody Mess is really important. It's about a dialogue about menstruation. And menstruation is a topic, Mark, that I think a lot of people sort of cringe, or they know it happens. I mean, gosh, every single one of us has been born of a woman. So if a woman wasn't able to have her periods or be able to menstruate, you're not going to be having a child. And so the very fact that from the age of 10, sometimes 8 or 9, all the way up to between 45 and 55 or so, a woman is bleeding on a cycle on a monthly basis. And we tend to not want to discuss it. And it's because there seems to be this taboo about associated with, oh my gosh. But you think of it this way. When you cut your hand and you bleed and you see that it's bleeding, you talk, oh my gosh, you're bleeding. Are you okay? Are you in pain? But because a woman bleeds from the very same place that she is divine and she creates birth from or creates another human being from, it's now taboo and you can't talk about it. A Bloody Mess is looking at and speaking about the starting the dialogue about the conversation with regard to menstruation. The very fact that women all over, young girls, young women, that they experience pain, they experience physical changes on a monthly basis that are a result of the hormones that are going on inside them. It's not, oh, she's, it's her thing. Oh, she's got a headache. Oh, she's sick. No, it's not any of those things. I've got my period. And when women themselves become comfortable to say that to the men folk around them, whether it be friends, their siblings, their parents, uncles, then you get to the point where it's just a normal thing. So I don't normally, if someone asks me what's going on, I will say, yeah, I'm not feeling well. I've got my period. And all of a sudden you get dead air on the other side. And they're like, ooh, what do we say to that? You don't have to say anything. It's like, oh yeah, do you need to take some time to rest? Or, is there something I can do to help you feel better? Or have you had something to eat? Is your stomach upset? There's so many other symptoms that are associated with having your period that, you brush it under the carpet. Think of it this way, Mark. Have you ever had a headache?
I certainly have.
And have you ever felt dizzy?
I have.
Have you had a bellyache?
I have.
Okay, so imagine this, that it's a bellyache, but it's not quite a bellyache. It feels really like your intestines are going to try and jump out of your body. Combine that with feeling nauseous and add that with a headache and feeling dizzy and all out of sorts and grumpy, not just the day of, but for almost 7 days during, and sometimes 7 days prior as well if you've got premenstrual syndrome. And so when a woman says she's not feeling well, she doesn't want to have sex, she doesn't want to be touched, she's feeling grumpy about it, it's because of the hormones that are running through her body. And just a bit of care at that time will make a world of difference. And you'll see a huge difference in how she's able to actually navigate and able to manage her pain as well. It is very painful for some.
Well, today, Annie, you have made me feel blessed that I'm male and not female. But anyway, what I like about this film, Annie, you have chosen a film that is really touching topics that don't like to be discussed. So just like everything what you do, you're putting a voice out to the world that really makes a difference and an impact. And it was great that you are touching subjects like that, because a lot of people don't like to discuss these things, and just getting that message out there is going to help somebody with these kind of topics. So thank you for sharing a little bit more about that.
Yeah, there was actually just one more thing, and that was I play a traditional South Asian mom, and it was so far removed from who and what I am like as a regular person. I think I'm a pretty hip person. I'm a hip mom. I get adopted by all of my friends' kids as being their cool mom. And I was playing this very different, traditional, almost nagging, overpowering character, to the point where you're not too sure whether you like her or you don't like her. And it's because of the role that I was playing. And it's a very, I could relate to that role, because when I was 11 or 12, I got handed a book, and that was my introduction to the birds and the bees. You know, I got told that's it, right? Sort of thing. And then whatever I learned at school, and then whatever I was able to sneak around and learn and find out on my own, because as a kid, you were curious, right? So I found it very difficult and very challenging to get into that role, the tone of voice that I needed, and the mental state that I had to be in to play that character. It meant that for the 2 days and almost the 10 days prior, when we were going over the scripting, I was not me. I was this South Asian traditional mom. And I had to be that person to remain in character. And even when you're on set and it's not your scene, you don't talk to anyone else. You don't go out of character. I remained in character for the several days that we had to do for the shoot, only so that the tone in the film remained consistent. And that is a challenge.
And a question that springs to my mind: how do you find learning your lines? Is that a difficult process?
I have actually found it quite easy once I got the hang of how to do it, and now I'm able to learn passages. It's like having a dialogue, and so I find that if you know your character and what your character is feeling, and you actually think about all the nuances that make up a character's emotional quotient, and who they are as a person, and the background they come from, it becomes easier to be in character. And so you don't feel like you're acting then, but you feel like you are truly that person. When you get into that spot where you're being that person, the scripting comes more natural. But yes, you have to learn it. You have to say it a couple of times. When I played the principal role in a web series, and that's yet to be released. And in that role, I actually had I had 4 students that I had to pretend. I put the voices on for all 4 students, recorded their parts, and then memorized my part so that I could actually insert my lines when they said it. Because that's the other part, is you need to know what's the cue before you say your line, and how do you end your line so it's leading into someone else, and do you need to step into your line before they finish their line so it's like you're stepping over their words a bit. And the merging of all of that takes practice, and then you don't often have the other actors to do that with, so you've got to be able to either find someone or pretend that person is there, put in their lines. I recorded voices, and so that's how I actually landed that role myself. Is when I sent in my audition, I auditioned as though I had all 5 of us there in the room.
It's just very technical. I can imagine that there's a lot of late nights when you are preparing for the big days of filming, but it's such a fun industry to be in. Annie, we're coming up to a commercial break. We have been talking to Annie Koshy, branding strategist, model, actress, photographer, media entrepreneur. And so far, we have learned all about the obstacles that she has faced, the challenges that she has been through, her first film debut, and we have learned a little bit about Annie's business. Join us after the commercial break when we will be going into more detail about her newest film, Flair. Join us after the commercial break. Welcome back to Brilliance Business TV. I am your host, Mark Stephen Pooler, and we are joined by the amazing Annie Koshy. And what a great show so far. We have learned all about women's troubles, what they go through. I'm so grateful that I am a man today. And we have learned all about Annie's amazing first debut film. We have learned about her business and the challenges that she has faced to get where she is today. Annie, welcome back to the show. I'm really looking forward to picking up where we left off.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Mark.
So, Annie, your new film, Flair, Face Everything and Rise, is everywhere at the moment. I've seen all the awards. What I did notice, what I want to ask you about, forgive me if I've got this wrong, it says story by Annie Koshy. So have you written this story? What's the story behind that?
The story is my story. It's a biopic on my life. And so it's a true story. And the very fact that actually there is over 10 hours of footage that was taken. The film is not scripted. The only part that we have perhaps that you could say is a little scripted is the voiceovers that take place in a few sections. But otherwise, all of the footage there is raw footage. It's not been scripted or done more than, it was done in one take. And so that itself is huge. The story, as we all have stories, this story is a powerful story because it tells of several areas. It's an immigrant story. It's a story of a creative soul. It's a story of conformity and the resulting consequences of that. It's a story of parental alienation and divorce and the results of what happens on families as a result of that. There are several components, which is why this story is very compelling on multiple levels for not just someone who's of a South Asian background, where I'm coming from, or of a Christian background, which I'm coming from, but from any religious background, from any community where you've had to migrate to another country, and from any culture in which it's expected that women and men have specific gender roles. And because of that, the film is actually making huge impact across the world, from Turkey to France to Scotland to US to Canada, India. It's been seen and awarded around the world.
And I have actually had calls with Manny Baines as well. He's the guy behind the movie as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
I have two directors for the film. Manny Baines is one of the directors. His company's the Rising Star Experience, and it was his company that actually brought me on, or I hired to put this film together. But we also have a director and a DOP, and his name is Serge Velbovets. He was very instrumental. He is the one that was the one that captured all of the footage. Serge was very instrumental in weaving all of that footage into a story that flowed because, as I mentioned, it was 10 hours or more of footage, and to take that and then to make it into an hour film is truly an artist's ability. I think the post-production editors and colorists and sound engineers, all of those individuals truly make a film come together. So Serge is very, very important in putting it together. Manny and Serge, both of them, including myself, work together as a directorial team to take this. Each of us had specific roles. So my company, GTA South Asian Media Network, is the executive producer, and it was involved in the marketing of the film, which is also a very, very important component of the branding and marketing that's associated with it. But yes, it was an incredible experience to be able to work with these two brilliant souls. They took my life and they made it into a classy film. It was not about throwing dirt on anyone. It was not about naming anyone and being, accusing them of this and that. No, not at all. Whether it was, I wanted something that was going to be tastefully done, that was going to be educative, and that could be used as a tool for other people to learn from. And that's what's ended up here.
Could you just give us a little bit of a flavour of what the movie is about? Just a little storyline.
Yeah, well, cultural expectations and values can often clash with our innermost desires. And so, as like myself, many women feel caught between what's conditioned of them, what's expected of them to do, and what they want to do, whether it's through their culture, whether it's through society. They often put their dreams and aspirations aside, Mark, and often that's what's holding them back. So instead of living true to their passion, they feel that they're obliged to have to live according to the way other people want them to live. And so, this film, it's a documentary film on my life, but it's a film that I think many individuals will be able to relate to. It's being able to empower yourself, being able to hear your voice and be able to stand firm on that and move forward on that and step into your fear of doing something against what everyone's expectations are. And that itself is important. Every day you're faced with choices, right? We choose what it is that we do. And I chose to serve the people that I was around. It was something that I grew up with. It was something that was expected of me, that's just how you are as a woman, that's how you do. But, in the process of doing that, Mark, I squashed my dreams. I squashed who I was as a person, and I started losing sight of that person. I started not recognizing me as an individual, and that was scary. And so the film really explores all of those aspects. The hardest component that I share in the film is the estrangement that I have with my own children. And it's a dialogue that needs to happen. I believe that divorce is something that has happened for many years. It's going to continue to happen. It's not going to go away. But it is very important as adults that we learn how it is that when you have a dysfunctional situation, how can you make that functional for everyone who is involved, especially for the children. It is not okay to alienate one parent from another parent. And it may not be intentional, But remember this, that whether it is young boys or young girls, they are looking to the parents as their role models. And if one parent is saying something about the other parent and that's not in support, then those children are going to grow up with that imagery in their head. And that's what's happened here. They grew up in a community in which a woman who is powerful like myself, who was empowered like myself, who was knowledgeable, educated, and who had a voice like myself, didn't fit into the mold of what other women were like in the community. I was painted as being someone who didn't fit, someone who wasn't in the mold of, and therefore was wrong. I was painted in that way. And so the image that they have in their head is that I didn't follow the path. I was outspoken. And even my very fact of me saying all of this right now continues to be a thorn, not just for them. A lot of the times, the people that come from the very region that I'm from in India, the men are raised in a very different, distinctive way than the women are. We have very, very clear strict gender roles, and any woman who steps out of that gender role and does not follow or adhere to what was time-old expectations is branded as being someone who does not fit that and therefore is wrong and therefore is out of that alignment.
Fear itself is such a great topic. It destroys many people's dreams. It holds people back from doing things. So even fear is such a great topic, but I love that you're giving a voice to women who may stand out or feel different, men who feel different, because it's not just women. I know what you're talking about also resonates with me. I was always a little bit different, stood out, and I face some of these fears as well. So I would urge everyone to go and check out Fear. How can people view this movie, Annie?
Well, it's still doing the festival circuit. It's going to be at least the rest of this year where it does the festival circuit. It has not been streamed publicly as of yet. The trailers are available on my YouTube channel, and they can find Annie J. Koshy Media Consultant, and you will see the trailers on that. But the film, everyone will have to wait. There are some festivals in which there will be a screening and people will be able to plug into watching the film through that. Very few people, private screenings for family and the cast have happened, but it is not yet publicly available. I know that there is a huge number of people who are eagerly awaiting and wanting to see it.
And I bet you can't wait for it to go more public, because when you have put so much effort, time and work into a project, it's getting great reviews, you're being nominated. You must want this to get out so people can really see the message that you're putting out there.
Yeah, I think that this is a film that could be used by women's organizations. It's a film that can be used by governmental organizations when they're looking at the immigrants and immigrants migrating, for them to get an idea of some of the challenges that they may face with their own children. Because, you know, when immigrants migrate to another country, they leave their country, but they don't have any idea of what the expectations are in the new country. And they have these visions in their head, you know, that are painted pretty pictures, but an immigrant's life is not always a pretty picture. They struggle a lot and they go through very, very difficult times and a lot of hardships to get to that vision. And often that's not really understood until they've made that move. And then it's sometimes very difficult. But more importantly, when you leave a culture in which it's been very restrictive and you go to a culture in which it's much more open-minded, there is fear that's associated with that because, oh my gosh, my kids are going to become westernized. Oh my gosh, my kids are going to assimilate to a country, a community that I don't agree with all of the things that they're doing, but I want to be here because it's going to be a better opportunity for my kids. So parents are sometimes caught between these two situations. The other thing to remember is if you've migrated to a country as a young person, then you've gone back, you've married someone in a traditional way, you come back now, and you've now raising a very young family. Your children are going to be growing in a new country. You've come from that old country. Your thinking has stopped. The minute you've left that country, that's where your thinking has stopped. So if you've left in the 70s, you've only gone up to the 70s. Even if you're raising your kids in the 80s or 90s, you're stuck in the 70s. So, or in the 80s or 90s, wherever it is, right? And so what's happened is that the country that you've come from has subsequently evolved. They've moved forward, but in your head, you have not moved forward. And that was a bit of what happened, is that my parents migrated a lot before I came along, and I was going through my teenage years. But when I got to my teenage years, the country that I'd come from had also progressed, maybe not as far, but they had progressed some. But our parents raised us in a much more traditional way. And it's the only way that they knew. And I don't fault them for that. It's what they knew. They didn't have a manual or a guide to raise us by. So they did the best that they could. But these are the challenges that many migrant families do face.
It's just great that you're putting a voice to it to really support others that may be going through similar things as well, Annie. Now, you're a passionate photographer as well. What brought you to photography? Because I know you are really passionate about it, Annie.
Well, photography for me, and I call it artography, is a combination of art and photography. I was notorious with a camera. I always had my camera with me. And it was something that I truly, truly enjoyed doing, is to photograph things. I enjoyed capturing those moments, because sometimes a moment is so beautiful that it's like a painting. And that's what I was able to see. And when I put a camera to my eye, it's this, I just have this feeling in me that I know when something is right, and I click it. And very often it takes very few shots for me to actually click it. So I love the expressions on people's faces. I love capturing them in their authentic face, not the one that you put on when, you have a photographer standing in front of you and they say smile and you go, and you do that smile. It's such a fake smile. But imagine when someone is talking and they're animated in conversation with someone and they give a glimpse of their true smile. Wow, that beauty, that's insane. And then when you're able to show that back to them, you're able to reflect that back to them, and they look at themselves and they see themselves when they're relax. And when they see their true smile, they light up. I get a high off of watching that. That for me is the biggest drug I can think of, is to see that happiness that crosses their face when they see themselves in a capture. That's my passion. That's what drives me. And yes, it's not just about people. It's about places. It's about graffiti sometimes that I see that, it's about the urban meets the rural. It's all of those things that creates an artography rather than a photograph.
So when I come out to Canada, which I will be at some point, to the Grant Cardone event, which I'm involved in, I would love to get a photo shoot with you, Annie. That would be an absolute honour.
It's my pleasure. And you know what? I like to find the off-beaten places. Sometimes I don't do studio shots. I don't like to photograph, using, a green screen in the back, or, those types of portfolio shots. I try to find out what a person is about, and then put them in their element, and then take them in their element as their shot. So that's something that I really enjoy doing. And I prefer an urban landscape meets professional sort of combo shot that gives a character and an artsy sort of feeling to the shots.
And you have such a selection of photos as well, just lots and lots of galleries. I have to say something about you, Annie. Me and Annie work together a lot. We collaborate, we do business, we make money together. Annie is a determined, hardworking, focused person, but she's got a heart as well. We have become real good friends over I don't know how long it's been now, but it's coming up
about
to
a year. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have just done so much business collaboration, networking together, business deals. And I think it's important when you know someone that you do share that they are walking the walk, they're talking the talk. She's an action taker, she's determined, and she is giving as well. She's not take. She is a giving person. Now, we have discussed so many topics today, Annie, but I just want to touch on for the last question a little bit about what you do as a branding strategist, because your graphics, your artwork that you deliver for your clients is breathtaking. It's just great work that you're putting out there. What do you do with your clients in branding strategy? How do you serve your clients? Because I would highly recommend, if you are looking for support with branding, Annie is the person to reach out to. Just tell us what it looks like, how you support your clients, Annie.
Well, if anyone is looking for to gain more visibility, they're looking for influence, they're looking for consistency, you're looking at a personal brand and you're looking to streamline it in a digital marketing manner, then those are the strategies that I'm able to help, whether it is coaching one-on-one, mentorships, to help to course development. If you're looking to streamline your website, graphic content, and how you can consistently brand across platforms, that's really what I work on. I help people eliminate the confusion, refine what it is their action. And there are some very, very important tips that I can share right now, even Mark. It's really about who you are as a person. Who's your brand? What's your brand about? My book, How to Be Your Badass Self, Using Your Inner Energy for Brand Success, it's great, but it's a great book for you to take a look at. The strategies in the book are easy to apply. What is difficult is when you take a look at the strategies and you have to apply all of them consistently. And that is a challenge, because you may do one thing or another. You may have knowledge in one area or another. But when you start having to combine all of that consistently, then that is where really you have a challenge. So if I was to ask someone, there are a couple of things that I would ask them. There's some questions that they would really need to look at. And really, if I was to ask you, Mark, in 3 words, if you can define or describe your company, describe what it is that you do, describe what it is that your product is, that's the first challenge. Make sure that you are able to say you do A, B, C. Right? And that's what it is. And then say, what is it that you are known for? What do people come to you for? Now, it's one thing to say that you're skilled in an area. That may be your education. You may have been hired in an area. It's another thing to know what you're good at doing. But then the 4th area is, what do people come to you for in terms of your expertise? And that's something very, very important. Aligning your company's mission and vision so that they are in alignment to what it is that you are saying, both personally and as a company, is very, very important. It's gone are the days where you can differentiate between the two. You need to actually align both of them together so that there is a consistency. And then what makes you really different? What makes your brand stand out from that sea of mediocrity? And so that you're not going to be the same thing. What sets you apart? Now, that doesn't mean that you really don't want to be doing something that's setting you apart to the point where people don't know why they need you. You have to first ascertain what's the need in the market. So when you create your niche, you first have to do a market survey to find out what is needed out there. What are people wanting? And so perhaps doing a poll or putting out a questionnaire and then getting some feedback back, maybe going out to different age brackets. And that brings me to the last point is get clear on who it is that you are addressing this to. Who is it that you are marketing it to? Who is your niche audience? Who is your niche clientele? Who is your avatar? And identifying that, niching it down to the point where you are really certain that this is a market that's going to need my service, and not offering the smorgasbord, the wide buffet service of everything and anything. Making sure that you are focused in on what it is and making sure that what you are offering is what is needed out there in the market. That is, in a nutshell, what I do.
And they're important steps as well. Some people, they don't focus enough on their little parts of their messaging, what they do, what they're about. And these things are what attract your ideal customers to you. Graphics are really, really important, which you are incredible at as well. And just putting that brand identity together, it really does have an impact on how you show up and the results that you get in your business. If you would like to get a hold of Annie, share with our listeners, Annie, what's the best place for people to get a hold of you?
Well, Mark, I'm very happy to say that I'm all over social media. So whichever platform it is that you are comfortable using, then feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Instagram, both as my personal name and my company name. So that's Annie J. Koshy, or under GTA South Asian Media Network. That's my company brand, and that will have details of my radio show. I'm on LinkedIn under Annie Koshy. I'm on Facebook under several names, but you can find me. Just put me into Google, find me on YouTube, reach out to me, direct message me, and I would love to be able to set up a free consultation to determine what your needs are and then to take it from there. Several areas that I have a focus on, including media work, radio, print, television, including photography work, including branding ideas for websites, graphic details, animation. Anything to do in front and behind the camera is really my focus with regards to branding.
Annie, I have really enjoyed having a conversation with you today. Thank you for being on the Brilliance Business TV show.
It's been an honor and a pleasure, Mark. I can't begin to tell you. I applaud the work that you do. I applaud the work and the platform that you've put together so that you can actually applaud the work of other business entrepreneurs and highlight the work that they do. It's so important, and I'm grateful to you. So thank you so much.
It's always a pleasure when we get together, Annie, and I'm grateful to have you as a friend as well. Thank you, everyone, for watching another great episode of Brilliance Business TV, conversations with leading experts in business. Catch us on Thursdays and Sundays, 7 a.m. PST, 10 a.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. UK. Just like our guest today, we have some wonderful guests coming on to the show over the coming weeks. So
thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.